if we need to teach our students, remember the narrative in 1970s and 80s was that India cannot grow beyond 2.5%, and that was called Hindu economic growth or Hindu growth rate.
It is my privilege to welcome Professor Ritendra Sharma, Head, Center for Indic Studies.
Namaste everyone. Thank you Digi, thank you Hemanji for giving this opportunity. As Nagesh ji was articulating the spirit and the vision that we are taking forward, the first is of course decolonizing Indian education. The second is rerouting it in indigenous ethos and vision. So I'm just going to unfold that vision, the steps that we took, how we integrated that, and how other can also integrate that. So when we are sharing our journey, it's just to share our long-term commitment of civilizational resurgence in 21st century. So if there's anything new in Indian education that needs to be deeply integrated, that's coming from national education policy, as we know, is Indian knowledge system, which is getting implemented now across institution as the mandate is coming from the top bodies, UGC, AICT, everyone is getting involved in this. So Ministry of Education has this dedicated department now, which is called IKS division, which is helping institutions across India, whether it's IITs, IIMs, or anyone else. And as we know that this mandate demands that at least 5% of credit should be given to IKS, and out of those 5%, 50% belongs to a specialized or expertise of that area. How does it translate? I'll try to share that with our own experiment of last 10 years or so. So IKS has become a buzzword, and maybe perhaps everyone is also struggling to implement that, trying to understand where to find the content, how to find the right teacher, how to deliver it, how to integrate that across a stream also. So one thing I would like to state before going, because otherwise it feels like I'm just giving an idealistic scenario. So Ministry of Education, this IKS division has released this report that IKS-based idea can take India or contribute in Indian economy by 2026 or so in $1 trillion. So it's natural when India is rising in 21st century, when you're looking for Indian consumer, Indian market, Indian mind, naturally the confidence that we are going to have is whether we can generate Indian products also or not. And when I'm saying Indian products, I'm talking about the global standard, international market, can we capture that? Right now, of course, our economy is rising, and that's because of all these globalization, privatization, and urbanization, this LPG thing that happened in 91. But point here is, to capture global market, you need world-class product which has solid, based on solid indigenous ideas also. So are we innovative enough to have some products in international market based on indigenous idea? So if you look at the report, you'll find that it is giving a very clear picture of how this $1 trillion is divided. And it's quite obvious that if you are working for heritage tourism or textile, religious festival, and remember, China is right now capturing all religious festival market across Asia. So this is not something that India is aspiring to do. This is something that we are aspiring at least for our country. Okay. So how it translates across industry is given in this report. I request all of you to go through this report and understand that IKS is not just integrating Ramayana and Mahabharata as a standalone 1 or 2 module. This is something revamping Indian education based on this confidence and this pride that India will lead in 21st century with Indian ideas. So if you look how it also can be translated into academic courses, you see if it is happening across industry-wise. If you have yoga studios or yoga technology coming up, then see that neuroscience, biomechanicals, medical instrumentation can be combined with the foundational text giving us insights into yoga, and so on. Whether it's Indic language technology, government has already invested I think now more than 1,000 crore rupees just doing research on natural language processing through Indic linguistic insights, you could say. Then Indic architecture and archaeology. This can be easily understood. If heritage is going to be a big industry in next 25 years and as India is rising, then what kind of expertise it is required to revamp it, looking at the technological integration also, and so on. So these are ideas which will become the part of curriculum in next 10 years. And this is just a snapshot. It will keep evolving as we are moving ahead. So from civilizational perspective also, if you take a look, the way Sri Ram temple at Ayodhya changed the political, cultural, social landscape of India, the IKS will change the educational, academic landscape of Bharat also. And this is going to be reality. So, of course, we did not started with all these vision now as I am articulating. We started with very simple thought that we need to integrate indigenous knowledge system in our mainstream academia. Where to start, where to go. I'll just give you the brief journey in 2 minutes. We started in 2015 in establishing the Center for Indic Studies, as Sir was telling, and he was very keen to take this Indic ideas into education system. And he waited for no one or government to come up with policy. He took his own initiative and invested his resource and time in building this. So the first was to raise awareness on indigenous and Indic ideas. 2015, just imagine, national education policy was not there. The first task was to identify who are experts in this area. And we basically found them through their research work. We were looking for people who has invested their whole lifetime, almost 20, 30, 40 years, coming up with ideas or books or textbook that can help us understand Indic ideas deeply. So we started inviting them in our university one by one. And we knew that like Google Talk or TED Talks, if we record their talks and spread them through YouTube, there are a lot of takers, not only in India, across the world. And we were right in that once we started broadcasting these talks of Indic experts, right now we have 50% viewers coming from outside India. So that's the potential of Indic ideas across India. So this is our YouTube channel where we started spreading this. This is I'm giving you as a track because if you want to implement IKS in university or college, we need to create awareness at the same time. Without creating awareness, without bringing faculty in confidence, without starting talking about all these ideas, it would be very difficult to mechanically implement it. Then we started publishing articles. This is all in online domain for public consumptions for all Indic seekers without any charges. Okay, so now we have published more than 1,000 articles, which is, right, as a repository, anyone who is interested in Indic ideas can go there. Then online Indic courses, we realized, let me share you one thing, that if we need to teach Indic ideas in India, we don't need to rely on American expert or British expert or German experts for that. We can take their help in decoding these ideas, maybe. But wholesale, just exporting everything to foreign universities would not help initially. So what we thought is, why not invite these Indic experts for creating online courses, which will be authentic, which will be based on rigorous research, which has Indic insights and lens into it. And that was the outcome. Again, these courses are available at very subsidized rate because the purpose was to train next generation of Indic teachers who can take this idea ahead in schools and colleges. Then next was, of course, publication. So we started this Indus University Press, through which we published booklets, books, illustrated edition. Again, the same focus to take Indic ideas among students. Of course, the documentary, it was our first project. Again, this was to counter all sorts of distortion that was shown through National Geographic or History Channel. I'm talking about 2015, that any Kumbh Mela documentary that you found at that time was all about exotic and erotic of Kumbh Mela, but never about how we looked at Kumbh Mela through our own insights. And then we started also our Journal of Sanatan Dharma. So this is just to give you track record of in 10 years what we tried to cultivate and nurture in our university. Always the idea was whoever in India is working or would like to work, come and connect with this platform. And then came national education policy, and we started integrating Indian knowledge system into picture. Even in 2018 and 19, we started with 1 or 2 module. So the simple thing was that every American university at this point of time is teaching their students the core curriculum. And the core curriculum is, because students are coming from different parts of the world, and they need to be grounded in Western ideas, Western thinkers, Western minds, all classical texts that they considered as the foundational text of their civilization. This is something that they take for granted, because without which any subject that you are going to study there will not make any impact. The same demand, if we raise in India, or if we were raising in India, were considered as outlandish, were considered as some, problematic, politically problematic. 2014 changed many things. 2020 changed also another thing that, you don't need to feel inferior about Indic ideas. We should take all pride in our achievements, whether it's achievements in science, heritage, arts, architecture, economy, anything. Those are not included in our textbook so far. So we started with this core curriculum that first year students should have mandatory course in introductory ideas of Indian knowledge system or Bharatiya Gyan Parampara. As you can see, it's just a snapshot of that. Then we realized that it will not do work. Like first year, what after that? Or maybe after first semester, what they are going to do. So second semester or third semesters onward, we started integrated Indic knowledge system module with respect to expertise of that institution. So if you can see that Indian Aesthetics and Design Institute, Indic Architecture and Architecture, School, Indian Business Models, History of Indian Science and Technology, and so on. Our vision was that at least one module each semester should be taught to our students based on these indigenous or Indic ideas. Look, we are just right now considering for 10% space of revamping that subject through Indic lens. And this is something any civilization, any proud civilization or any proud citizen would demand and consider. Gradually, we are looking in next 10 to 15 years that every subject that should be taught in India should have foundational Indic lens, so we can contribute our ideas at the global platform. If our students are not trained in Indic ideas, how we can expect them to create global product on Indic ideas later on? And without which, again, by copying blindly the Western ideas or Western product, you cannot become economic superpower in 21st century. This is not what China is doing. This is not what Japan is doing. This is particularly because of colonial mindset we are aspiring to do in 21st century. So just to share the snapshot of what we did. So suppose if you have architecture institution, then what you can do is that from first semester, foundational IKS, but from second semester, you can have Indic architectural domain that covers not only data of Indic architecture, lens, perspective, and theories of indigenous architecture that evolved in our country for thousands of years. And this is how we have integrated. First is an introduction to historical cities in ancient India. This includes Vastu Shastra, Shilp Shastra, and other major texts that we have. Then temple architecture, then sacred gurus and water bodies, then public buildings, yatra and dharamshala, and then town planning. This is what we are suggesting after 75 years of independence. Just think about it. 75 years we have been teaching our students we are feeding them architecture theories, data, but without giving them any Indic perspective. This is going to change in just 1 minute. Then if you look at how we have integrated in pharmacy, we have integrated Ayurvedic component, or what we can call indigenous medicine, health, integrated in pharmacy institute. So this is again spreading across all semester. Again, this is only one module per semester to begin with, to make a student familiar with all these ideas. Then Indian model of business, economy and management. If we need to teach our students Remember, the narrative in 1970s and 80s was that India cannot grow beyond 2.5%. And that was called Hindu economic growth or Hindu growth rate. Then Angus Madison report came, and he established through his research that India was economic power till 18th century, as we were capturing almost 25% to 30% of global GDP. If with that mindset, if we are teaching our students, they will always feel inferior, that we never had management, we never had economy, we were always poor, we are living in poverty, we could never create organization, or we can never create world-class product. No institution at this point of time is teaching a complete business history of India to their students. History of business, when we have captured for 1800 years, 25% of global GDP, just think about the products that we were creating. I give example to my students that when British came here, they came here as entrepreneurs or commercial exchange. What products we were purchasing from British? Nothing. What products we were selling to British or to Rome or to China? World-class product we were having. So what were those world-class products? Who were creating them? Where they were going? All this maritime trade history, all this business history of India is completely ignored in our education system, and that we are trying to bring back. And also, what is our own model of doing business management and economy? Okay. And the last one is Indic aesthetic, which we have tried to integrate in Design Institute or also in Architecture Institute. Our civilization has created world-class product in terms of art, artifacts, craft, architecture. Who did that? What was the vision behind them? Nothing is taught in our universities. So at least by integrating step by step all these modules, we can bring a larger awareness among our students. So this is where we are right now. And for this last 10 years, we have been trying to spread awareness about IKS or civilizational studies, as you can call it. We got recently, just few months back, because of our contribution in this area, award of Adani Indology Scholarship. So thank you so much for listening to me.